Hello everyone, how you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're all doing really well today. I'm Lindsay, your host of the Heavy Metal Journal and writer for Lambgoat and the Moshville Times. And today I'm back with New Metal Monday, where I talk about my favourite new releases of the week. And this week I have 5 brand new albums that I want to talk about. But before I begin, as always, check out the description box below, where you will find a Spotify playlist, which will feature every single album that I talk about on my New Metal Monday videos. So if you do use Spotify, make sure to follow that playlist because I update it every single Monday when one of these videos goes live. But if you don't use Spotify, I will also include the band's Bandcamp links below, just so you guys can find the music that I am talking about as easily as possible. But like I said, I've got 5 brand new albums and I'm just going to jump straight in. Okay, so first up on my list, I am probably going to pronounce this incorrectly because I always do with these types of things, but I have Harakiri for the Sky with Scorched Earth, and this is the 6th studio album from the post-black metal band from Austria. Now this is extreme metal, so it does incorporate a lot of black metal and death metal, but there's also a lot of post-rock, grunge and modern hardcore in there as well, specifically when it comes to the vocal style. The vocal style really does adopt a lot of the hardcore elements in amongst all of the black metal, so it's very raw and very despairing. Now usually I am put off by hardcore vocals, it just doesn't translate well with me at all, but it works ridiculously well for this band, especially when you contrast that with the very rich and dense melodies, the black metal, the death metal and the groove, plus all of the progressive elements that are in this as well. So you have the high production of the multi-layered music, which is incredibly catchy and very dynamic, offset by these blackened hardcore vocals. But not only that, you also have a lot of very light and ethereal keys and synths throughout this as well, and they really do push musical boundaries. It's very hard to kind of pinpoint exactly what kind of genre they fall into because they kind of do a little bit of everything and it works really well. Now this is addictively melodic, but it's also brutally impassioned at the same time, especially with the ridiculous blast beats and the tremolo picking and the dense riffs throughout this. But even though it is incredibly powerful, there's definitely a vulnerability about it as well, and there's definitely a dark beauty behind it all. Not only that, but they also include some guest vocalists on this record, including Serena Cherry of Svalbard, amongst others, and they also covered Radiohead on this record, which I was not expecting, but it works really well. I didn't think it would work well, but it works really well. There's a lot of feelings and themes of devastation, turmoil and despair throughout all this, but it's ridiculously catchy at the same time. This is an absolute monster of a record at just over an hour long, so if you are a fan of the likes of Alcest, Vemod, Svalbard obviously, and Agaloch, you're definitely going to want to get onto this. But I really loved this. The album artwork is incredible as well, and this is one of those albums that caught me by surprise. Didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did, but I absolutely loved it. Check it out. Okay, so next up on my list, I have The Great Old Ones with Kadet, and this is the 5th studio album from the atmospheric black metal band from France. Now, these guys are the harbingers of cosmic nightmares and arcane melodics, infiltrating your mind to drag you deep into the darkest pits of insanity. Yes, this is Lovecraftian atmospheric black metal. I love everything to do with H.P. Lovecraft, so when I encounter a metal band who centres their music around Lovecraftian themes, I am all over that, and this record is no exception to that whatsoever. Now this record in particular takes a deep dive into the dream quest of unknown Kadet, and it's deliciously brutal but curiously addictive at the same time. It's dark, it's chaotic, and it's going to completely melt your brain, but there's something very hypnotic about it as well. This record is an epic soundscape of extreme black metal with a lot of really cool haunting melodies. Intense tremolo picking, insane blast beats, chugging bass lines, really deep demonic guttural growls and screams with the occasional clean vocal throughout. It doesn't make an appearance very often, but when it does, it's very powerful and very haunting. But there's also something incredibly enticing about this record. It's unsettling and very unnerving, but you can't help but listen to it more and more. This is another monster of a record at just over an hour long, so if you like your very atmospheric black metal with a lot of really cool, rich melodies, but dense Lovecraftian themes, definitely check this one out, especially if you're also a fan of the likes of Wolves in the Throne Room, Gorea, Fen, that kind of black metal atmospheric sound. This one is definitely for you. But like I said, if you are a fan of your black metal with Lovecraftian themes, do not sleep on this one. This was brilliant. Okay, so next up on my list, I have Dead Spawn with Bile of the Gods, and this is the second studio album from the blackened death metal band from the US. And specifically, this is horror and fantasy themed old school death metal with a black metal twist to it. This is an incredibly catchy yet brutally heavy record, full of intense riffs, ridiculous blast beats, chugging bass lines, demonic growls and screams on a foundation of heavy, melodic and harsh groove. This was an incredibly intense record. It goes straight for the jugular, it does not let go, and it's over before you know it at just over half an hour long. Now, the really cool thing about this record is it doesn't have all of what I like to call the pomp and pageantry of the synths and the keyboards to create the atmosphere. It's definitely a guitar-driven record, and it's the eerie and ominous guitar tones, the riffs and the solos that create that very dark, heavy atmosphere. This is an incredibly hypnotizing and enchanting record, but it's going to completely melt your face off at the same time. The thing that stood out to me the most about this record, as well as it being incredibly catchy and alluring to listen to, it's incredibly evil sounding at the same time. So if you are a fan of the likes of Frozen Soul, Necrophobic, Immolation, Behemoth, that kind of sound, this one is definitely for you. But I loved this. It's straight to the point, no nonsense, old school death metal with a black metal twist with lots of horror and fantasy themes, which is incredibly catchy. Check this one out. Okay, so next up on my list, I have The Machinist with Contempt for Life, and this is the second studio album from the industrial blackened death metal band from the UK. Now, basically, if you take Skynet and the Terminator and add that into black metal and death metal, this is the result. Now, the cool thing about this is the band deliberately used an electronic drum program to really emphasize that industrial tone to the record, along with the synths and the keyboards. Now, they are very liberal with the use of synths throughout this, but don't get me wrong, because the guitars in this are incredibly atmospheric and so ridiculously heavy and intense at the same time. The power behind this record is ferocious, and there's something very cold and dark and bleak about this record as well. Now, despite the fact this is a very cold and bleak and brutally heavy record, there's also a very harsh beauty behind it with a lot of dense melodics which are incredibly captivating. Rolled into one, this is a highly produced record which is really addictive to listen to. The vocal style is primarily gutturals, but they do alternate between different guttural styles, so you have the death metal roars, but you also have the venomous black metal screams and rasps, and on occasion there are a couple of clean vocal moments which are almost monastic in nature and very powerful and uplifting. But as well as all of the death metal and the black metal elements with the industrial sound, there are also a lot of technicalities throughout this. It's a highly progressive record with lots of really cool technical precision, especially when it comes to the guitar tone. So if you are a fan of the likes of Exocrine, Vorga or Veil of Panath, this one is definitely for you. But I absolutely loved this. Like I said, it's Terminator meets blackened death metal, and I cannot stop listening to this record. Check it out. Okay, so last up on my list, but certainly by no means least, I have Corroding Soul with their self-titled debut, and this is atmospheric black metal from the UK. Now, once again, this is another solo project. Anybody who's followed me for more than 5 minutes on this channel will know that I absolutely adore the underground, and I also absolutely adore these solo projects. The amount of talent that's out there at the moment is ridiculous. Now, this record is grandiose and opulent, but the black metal side of things makes it incredibly raw at the same time. So you have your intense tremolo picking, really cool lightning speed riffage, screaming solos, blistering blast beats that just seem to go on forever, chugging bass lines, and the vocal style is incredibly raw, venomous, and rasping. But not only that, you have a lot of dense atmosphere and really cool ambient moments just to kind of break things up a little bit. Now, the record itself is 39 minutes long, but there's only 4 tracks on the record, so each track is a sprawling soundscape. This is an epic record full of magic and mystery and wonder, but it's incredibly dark and beautiful at the same time. So if you are a fan of the likes of Dudstrit, Bloody Valkyria, or Belore that were all released last year, this one is definitely for you. But you know me, I love my pomp and pageantry when it comes to atmospheric black metal with a lot of really cool dense melody. This one is no exception to that rule, and I absolutely loved it. Check it out. And that's it for this week's New Metal Monday. Once again, comment down below to let me know what you think of today's records. And if you have any of your own recommendations, let me know and I will get them added to my list as always. Make sure to follow me on all of my social media platforms, which are included in the description box below. Thank you so much for your support, everybody. It means the absolute world to me. I hope you find something that you like this week, and I will see you very soon in my next video.